Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Today we have Telena Paris with us, who is originally from Atlanta, currently living in Florida, and has lived there for a while. However, believe it or not, she's going to be moving back to Georgia in a couple of weeks. She is a very well-known speaker and an international influencer. She has a group or an event called the IAG, or I Am Greater Summit Retreat, that happens fairly often. She also has founded the Right Choice Firm, which is a consulting firm to help executives get to their highest level of performance. Welcome to the show today, Telena.
Hi, Jason. Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're stoked to have you with us today. We love the different areas of people that we talk to on the podcast and love to get their perspective. Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are. I know that you, for over 15 years, was a C-suite executive, and then I don't know what changed in your mind that you decided to want to break out on your own and start your own company. Just give us a little bit of background about who Telena is.
Oh, yes, definitely. So I'm a country bumpkin. I was, born and raised in Georgia. I say Atlanta because a lot of people don't know the little small towns that are associated with it. But, growing up and what have you, we traveled quite a bit with my family. My father was a salesman. My mother was, a serial entrepreneur as well. She, worked as a lieutenant at the Atlanta International Airport at some time too. And, and just seeing the strength and the guidance and the leadership that my parents, carried most of their lives was definitely a request, or a prerequisite for my growth opportunity, right? And so I currently hold four degrees, working on the fifth degree, and a doctor's in business administration, and finalizing that. You wanted to know who I am. I'm a mom. I have two beautiful little girls, and I do live in the sunny South Florida. My business, Right Choice Consulting Firm and Right Choice Learning Institute, are located both in South Florida as well as in Washington, D.C. We help companies all across the nation, even locally as well as globally. We are a boutique company, right? And we enjoy being that because we love having that intimate touch to be able to help our clients succeed. So bringing it back around to me, what started me on my journey? You asked. I did sit in C-suite for quite some time. I'm a grant writer. I've been in executive positions in various different companies, had the luxury of doing that. And I found myself wanting and desiring to want to have a wider reach and help more people. And so, I looked at, okay, well, where do I want to help people rise in? And there's so many different deficits out there in our communities globally as well as locally. And a lot of it had to do with homelessness or employment or stability. And I was like, okay, well, where do I fit at in all of that, right? So where's my social impact in that? Because I am a leader, I'm a business connoisseur, I'm an author, I'm a speaker. How do I help aid those individuals? And so I said, okay, well, I will start a firm that will help with the economy and the social economics and its support system so that businesses can thrive. When businesses thrive, so do communities. And when communities thrive, so do individuals and families. So it's a trickle-down effect. So for me, this is a holistic perspective that I'm taking on, really just kind of trying my best to be a part of a positive impact on society.
Well, so tell us about, in the event I was going to be a new client for your business, right? Describe for me what would be my experience and what would be my characteristics of who I am that would fit ideally into what you serve.
What a beautiful question. Thank you so much. So we don't choose a certain industry or genre. We're really in the business of infrastructure. We're the ones that do the work that no one else really wants to do. And so what I mean by that is that we have all these beautiful minded individuals creating these grand brainchilds, but one of the things they really forget about is infrastructure. Or maybe they didn't forget about it, maybe they just didn't feel like they wanted to do it, maybe they didn't have the time, maybe they did have the wherewithal but just didn't have the time allocation to perform these functions. So we're able to go in, our ideal client is someone that's either a startup or maybe they've already been seasoned in their business but really need help and assistance with their infrastructure. And infrastructure is going to look like this: business planning, succession planning, infrastructure development, organizational development. And that could be management structuring, personal structuring. It could mean fund development, where you're needing to create different multiple streams of revenue within your business to help support and strengthen the business for growth and longevity. We also assist in marketing and market research. I live a lot in the research side of things. So you'll see me dealing with data collection or research development or feasibility studies, or, mastering the triangulation methods to be able to come up with a good plan to use for focus groups and gathering data, really trying to identify where's the money coming from, what is the target audience, what is the true niche, and how do we make it and take it to the next level. So the ideal client can come from medical. I have clients in medical industry, education, legal, political. We also have clients in the mom and pop arena as well in various capacities: sports, entertainment, small businesses, you name it. We actually even partner with global and local and national government agencies to be able to perform functions. We've worked with the SBDC, Small Business Development Centers. We work with Office of Economic Development Centers as well. We've worked with federal agencies to perform technical assistance to and guidance to some of these businesses and assisting them to be able to actually register their business or develop out a business plan or creating their financial plan or pitch decks and things like that. We've dealt with training these individuals as well. So our end users have a wide spectrum. We have over 700 services, Jason, and I'm not going to sit here and talk about those today, but we do have our 5 major umbrellas, and that's going to be business and organizational development, grant writing and technical writing, contract negotiation, fund development, and marketing.
I love that. So let's get into some gossip or dirty little details. And what I mean by that is, I want to know, has there been someone that's come to you, attempted to hire your business or even hired your business and wanted your services, and then there was a crash and burn? And what was that crash and burn? I want to know. I mean, you come across as a very polished individual that's very high level, knows what she's doing, several degrees, working on a doctorate. I mean, almost like you're Teflon. I mean, nothing sticks to you. I know Teflon's not the best thing to be killed, whether it's toxic now with people talking about, but I want to know, there's been some failures. Tell me a couple of failures about what happened, and tell us what you learned from that. That's, I think, where most people do their most growing. So is there a couple examples you could share with me?
Oh my goodness. For me to be, first of all, let's start here. I'm human, Jason. Okay. Like, and so are the people that work in my business. Nobody has it all together 100%. What I strive for, and I think what you're seeing is that even though we may have hiccups and mistakes, I do my due diligence to make sure that we make sure the end user and the client is happy to our best ability. Do we win them all the time? No, right? But that's called people pleasing. And that's not the business that we're in. We're here to help with sustainability, growth, and what have you. So some of the mistakes that we've had, let's say,
I'm going to catch you there. You're saying that sometimes you will vet a potential client and say no to them, that we're not a good fit. Yes. Okay. I love that. So lots of people like to know that that's the case, that I'm not going to take anybody. I'm going to only take people I can win with.
We have a preliminary assessment, and it's both ways. So it's kind of like an interview on both sides, right? When a person starts a baby, I always say, or starts a business, I always say, compare it to having a child. And if you don't have a child, compare it to someone that that does. If it's a good parent, not a bad parent, right? So we'll go with the good parent aspect. And your job here there is to make sure that you give that child the best possibility possible. You set up a network of individuals that can help you, because, as you know, parenting you don't do alone. I mean, I don't care what anyone tells you. If the school system, the grandparents, the cousins, the whomever, the community support that you get, the summer camps, whatever it may be, they are all there to invest in that child's growth. Why would we look at our business any different? right? So when we look at our child, as a business, as our brainchild, we tend to tenderly take care of it better. We invest in it. We go with the ups and downs of it or whatever, and kind of graduate with it through the process, right? And so when we are looking at businesses and we're actually, I guess, doing our assessment or initial consultation with a business, it is not only us that is looking at the business and if it's going to be a win for us. It's them looking at us too, because we got to babysit that business for however long we're touching it. We are the glorified babysitter at that moment, educator, support system, or whatever it may be. And so it really needs to synergetically line up. So let me answer that question that you have. What are some of the things that we've not had a good experience with? Well, let's talk about COVID. Before COVID, we were 95% in person, 5% online. COVID hit, we went 100% online. It was a pivot. It was, diabolical change. We learned at that moment that our infrastructure systems were not in alignment for 100% online engagement. So, there was time lapse with potential clients, because what we would have done before in person, now we're having to make sure that the system can support it. So we dealt with CRM issues, customer relation management system issues, and finding the right one. We literally in COVID went through 5 CRM management systems to make sure that we did it right. And we went from some of the world-class CRM, I'm not going to mention names, with some of the world-class CRMs that to come to find out that we probably didn't need all of that. And we somewhere in the median of it. We had issues with how do we get the word out and promote to people? Because before we were going out, we were networking, we were in person, we were, I'm a speaker, so I'm engaging on talks. So having to switch to online and getting people to that perspective, there was a lot of pivoting that had to happen and a lot of challenges. Thank goodness we've come across those curves, but even still to this day, things arise that we're always having to actually try to adjust to best fit our clients' needs. But our goal, though, Jason, is if we have an issue with a direct client, I'm from the South, okay? I believe customer service comes first all day, even if that means, unfortunately, my business having to take and bite the bullet sometimes, because I would rather a client, an end user, have a great experience than to walk away feeling that we didn't hold up our end of the bargain. So we're very meticulous with that and trying to honor individuals. And
what would you say from your experience, or say maybe the top 3 reasons that businesses fail, whether they're mom and pop or they're seasoned, maybe they're, most people know that most small businesses fail within the first couple of years, right? What's been your experience, and how does your company help people get through those issues?
I think the biggest difference, I mentioned a couple of community partners and agencies that we work for who are fabulous to their own right. I mentioned, there's the SBA, there's SBCs, there's Office of Economic and Small Business Development Centers, there's, urban leagues and United Ways and things like that help, small businesses really kind of push themselves through the door. However, I think there's one major component missing, and it's no pun intended to their federal funding, but they are federally or state or locally funded. So it gives them really limitations of how much they can engage a company and at what level of engagement they can engage them. Our company differs. We kind of fill in the gap there because we needed to find out where's the gap, where we fit in and where we fit in good. We give really personable experiences. We sit one-on-one with our clients. We walk them through the process. They're able to give us a call. It's not a very cold, let's write something for you and give it to you, and that's it. It's really a partnership. So I think where we differ at is the creation of the support system that we've defined and are able to provide for our end users and our clients and our peers is what sets us apart. Now, you asked me, what are the 3 things that I think cause a business to fail? I believe it's lack of support. I believe it's lack of education. And then I believe it's lack of planning. So those are my 3. So education, support, and planning are key to success in business. And the reason I say that, planning is going, if you plan, you plan out the multiple streams of revenue, you understand what your expectancy, and you then, when you expect and you project and forecast what financials may look like, now you're able to create internal budgets that will actually help support those efforts, which can then impact project sales or services or product development that needs to be had within a certain time period, allowing you to gauge yourself, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or yearly, to be able to see where your growth or your deficits are within the business. So I think planning is key. I think not only going in and doing it alone. I know there's a lot of people like, well, I'm a lone wolf, I can do it on my own. And there's nothing like community. I promise you, I kid you not. Doesn't mean that you have to tell all, show all your eggs in the basket and tell everybody all your deep and dark, beautiful, wonderful attributes of your business that makes you successful. But I think that there's something to having that support system. We talked about raising a child. We know that there are some wonderful diabolical parents out there that do homeschooling, but even them, they crave to have experiences on the outside for their children when raising them so that they can actually be full, well-rounded individuals. Well, let's put that in perspective for businesses. You can be a solo entrepreneur, you can go it alone, or you can do it the way you want to. But at the end of the day, somebody still has to use your services or buy your products for you to be successful. So that's still some type of community. So what I would say is get a mentor, get someone that's kind of been in that arena, help support you, guide you through that process. Be willing to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? Talk about it. This is all a part of this education and planning process too, that we're talking about. So, and support system. So that is my response to your question.
Why is it that so many people feel that they need to do everything themselves? I mean, there is, when you start a business, people feel like they need to do everything themselves. And sooner or later, whether at a necessity, crisis, something, they start to realize that I need to focus on what I'm good at and hire out my weaknesses. Where does that come from, that people feel I got to do everything?
Well, some of it could be proprietary, right? Some people don't want to share the special sauce, so they don't want everybody in it because maybe they feel that their business is vulnerable to the point that if somebody bigger than them sees can acquire or produce faster than they can, so therefore it's them trying to stay in front of the mark. Sometimes you'll see that happen. Another time is that people don't have the education; they don't know that there's someone out there that exists, or maybe it could be resources. Maybe they use their last $500 to start their business. They're really good at what they do. They know the old school route of going and knocking on the doors or picking up the phone and telling people about it, what have you, and they're just waiting for the next paycheck. So they're living paycheck to paycheck, literally trying to sustain. So they probably just don't have the resources. Some people just they have a lone wolf mentality where they don't get along with people. I know the times I hear people say I don't like people.
I don't get along with people very well.
So for some people, it's like, I would rather just not deal with the drama. And then some people have anxiety. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen out there, this is a real thing. Some people don't do well with other conflicting ideas or challenges. For me, I make sure I have someone that challenges me. I have a person that she sits there and I'll call her and she'll be like, why, right? Why not, right? But I listen. It's not so much as I'm going in it to combat, because I don't need the combativeness. What I need is somebody to sharpen my iron. Iron sharpening iron, right? So have a mentor. That's why it's cool to have somebody that will challenge what you're saying, because if you are accepted as a challenge for your better, for your better growth opportunity, then your advancement is endless. But as soon as individuals start to stifle, they cap out at a certain level because their resources mentally, it can only take them somewhere, so many places. Like everybody's on this chat AI thing right now, right? Everybody's on the bandwagon. But before, when it first was introduced, people were like, no, that's not going to go anywhere. That's not going to do anything. I'm going to keep my resources. And now we're hearing people firing people and acquiring AI to do the functions or what have you. It's like they're jumping on the bandwagon. And 20 years from now, AI, this part of what we know AI is going to be old school. And then we're going to be dealing with something completely different. It's about flexible thinking. And quite often, a lot of individuals don't understand. And that's not that they won't do it. they don't understand how to have flexibility, because we've been taught in our society over and over again, competition, everything's a competition, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be a competition. Competition can be quite healthy, but everything doesn't need to be a competition, because when we get into competition and we're striving, we're feeling that we have to just be the number one all the time. Well, then that can become a very lonely road. But when we look at competition as a growth opportunity, an area to challenge us and allowing other people to win so that we can learn, and then we too can trade off in the win as well, then we're talking about a progressive, a growing, strong society that creates a certain style of balance in different arenas of mental ideologies and methodologies. So off on that.
No, that's really good. I think a shorter answer may have been, and I'll propose this to you, is that you say society has taught us, our schooling system, at least the K through 12, and I'd make a case even further, that here's your test. Take the test. Don't look at your neighbor. Don't ask this. Don't do that. You do the test. Your project, and you don't see much collaborative work. In my own experience, K through 12, that was the case. And even my undergrad, it was that way. It wasn't until I was in my doctoral program, and when I started to choose my thesis topic, right, there was an opportunity for me to get involved in, back at the time, it was huge. It was nanotechnology. No one had heard of nanotechnology.
Yes, I remember.
And there were 5 different people. There was me as a chemist, there was a chemical engineer, there's electrical engineers, there's theoretical electrical engineer, and a physicist. And all 5 of us were attempting to tackle this particular problem in nanotechnology. And we all came up from a different point, and we spoke different languages. And there's times we argued over things when we were calling the same thing. We were talking about the exact same thing, but I was speaking chemical speak, and this guy was speaking, physics speak or whatever. Yet it became so apparent to me that in order to really tackle big problems and do amazing things, I needed collaborators, right? How is it that you kind of came to that realization that even in your right choice firm, is that a solopreneur? Then you have a whole bunch of things. You said 700 different.
We have 700 different services.
And how many people do you employ or do you collaborate with in order to give that to your customers?
So directly, we have 14 on our Right Choice Consulting side. We have 13 on Right Choice Learning Institute side, but that doesn't stop there. We have community partners. We have people and companies that we call upon to perform certain services for us when we need it, if we reached our capacity internally. So you said, when did it start? I think I learned at a very young age. I'm also I was an athlete growing up. I was also a dancer growing up. So I understood the team mentality, right? So when you come from a perspective of knowing that even if you're an all-star, or even if you are the lead, it takes a team to make it happen. And then let me go even further. I mean, coming from family-wise, my family, it was all about how do we assist each other with growth opportunity. And, God bless my mom. I just lost my mother, not even less than a year ago. And one of the biggest losses that I've had internally to deal with as a person, well, one of the things I can tell you is that she was centered on family. And what is it? It wasn't mostly my children or what have you. It was more so, how do we work together to help build each other up? There are certain societies and cultures that are out there that understand this really good. And then there's a lot that just don't get it at all. And so I think where we do our best justice at, and I'm going to come back to that K through 12 thing, because you and I are in complete alignment there, at least for the most part from what I heard. When we think about our jobs, what our focus is, whenever we're an active leader or even just performer of some sort in society, it is our duty to educate. As soon as we acquire education of any sort, it is our duty to pass that on, because if we don't pass it on, the mistakes repeat themselves. But as soon as we're able to pass on historical data, we're able to learn from data and be able to work and grow from that to expand on that data. And so I'm gonna bring it full circle, you talked about K through 12 with the standardized test. I am not a fan. I have never been a fan of standardized testing. And I'm sorry for all the other educators. I teach at collegiate level. I get you. I understand that, you really want to go and measure and create a measurable. You're talking to a person that does research. I understand gathering data, but I think there's a lot of biases in how we capture the data that skews the validity of the data. Because to be able to say that a person is intelligent based off of a score, or that they understand certain information based off a score subset, there are many people out there. Look at Albert Einstein, for goodness sakes. He had dyslexia. He had issues with being in public, but the man was brilliant, right? Absolutely brilliant, but could not be in a social environment to save his life. Okay, so so these are attributes. So for me, saying, okay, well, Albert Einstein, I need you to go sit in a room with 300 people and go take a standardized test, doesn't necessarily mean he didn't know what it was, but maybe he had some serious subset anxiety going on that we didn't know about, that maybe didn't allow for him to focus. Sometimes there's challenges. There are also, why are we building the future up to take tests when we lose ingenuity, we lose innovation, we lose creativity? These are very things that start and allows our cultures to grow and expand and become different and beautiful. We stifle that process to create what we call robots. I was just having a conversation with somebody. I mentioned AI, and I was having a conversation on another podcast. And I said, what we are doing is really interesting because, AI is surpassing. We're talking about how it's actually leaving people behind as far as not allowing them to have jobs anymore. But we did this to ourselves when we create individuals to be robotic, and then they don't understand how to be ingenious or have creativity. AI is going to surpass them at one point, which is what has happened now. Now AI is actually put 10 feet or 100 feet or 1,000 feet, whatever the measurement may be, ahead of the human mindset, because we've stifled the growth of innovation. Now, when we start feeding the innovation again, of course, mankind can overstep that again and start leading it. She said, well, what's the best way to have, to take control of AI? I said, innovation. Like, if you can't beat them, join them, but be better. Like, so what are we going to do now? What creations are we going to create now? Let's go back to the same individuals that we stifled the growth on and start feeding them knowledge so that they can actually start producing. So these new generations, I have a younger child that lives in the computer. She comes out to visit. Okay. It's a little weird, but they have this whole world in there and she lives there and she comes out and she's like, oh, and I'm like, you came to visit us today versus going there. You need to kind of switch those mechanics back around a little bit. There's nothing wrong with having balance. I think, technology is amazing. It's extremely important, but I think there are some, we need to bring the reins back of it. Honestly, truly.
I love that. I'm going to change gears a little bit. You have a retreat that you have every so often called I Am Greater Summit Retreat. Tell us a little bit about what that is and what someone would experience in the event they came to the retreat. Is it, in someplace beautiful like Utah, up in the mountains in the wintertime when we ski? Is it in Florida at the beach? What actually kind of happens?
Thank you for asking. It's I Am Greater is very dear to my heart. It's a response. I'll start with what is it first. It's a response to executives and leaders not having the same amount of volume of pouring happening to them as they expel to the world. So as executive and leaders, we pour into our subordinates, our peers, our communities, our systems and our organizations on a regular basis daily. But and we write the check and we send our employees off to go and be trained and gain access and to relax and rejuvenate. Well, who pours into the head, right? Who does that? And you will find that often we, as leaders, have been told that only the strongest survive. It's lonely at the top. You can't take everybody with you. So I did a small survey, kind of a study last year for different different industries and different types of people and cultures. And I wanted to kind of hear their feedback of what they thought, was happening at their time with them at that time. And it was unanimous, coming back saying that they didn't feel supported. Even if they were married or had kids or close relationships or what have you, They didn't feel supported. They felt like people didn't really understand the perspective and the weight that they had to carry on a regular basis, and they felt exhausted. So I said, well, good Lord, I'm not the only one. Thank goodness. I thought it was because
Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like to me you're not only describing CEOs and business owners, you're also talking parents to some degree, right? I mean, parents can feel the same way. Anyway, keep going.
No, you're right. So it's this particular I am greater is to answer the call, the longing that these individuals are having, and it's to allow them to come out, a certain amount of time, whether it be 5 days or more, what have you, to experience leadership development. But this is not a conference, but also to be able to experience the relaxation and rejuvenation and the pouring into while mingling and being around high net worth and high valued individuals just like them who understand the different stressors that they go through, but being able to commune together and being able to build each other up. The whole goal is to have all our greats come out and then have them be greater. So it is an annual event, and it's a different destination each year, and so we're excited about that. So if you're wanting to learn more, please stay tuned, follow us and what have you, and you'll learn about all these great destinations that we do on an annual basis. But I have a book called, and I'm going to leave it here, I have a book coming out called Fallout. And so IAG was a direct response to the travesties of COVID-19. So I mentioned some subsets that were and characteristics that were familiar to executives and leaders. But then COVID hit, and when COVID hit, it really changed the way we engaged our communities, our subordinates, our peers. We were, at one point, C-suites and leaders were told that they had to kind of separate themselves from the rest of everyone and had this hierarchical standard. And COVID just went in and kind of just messed all that up. We became family members to people that had a substantial amount of loss, whether it be through death, whether it be through loss of property or businesses from our peers, watching them. Maybe it happened directly to some of us or what have you. But there was just this sense of loss that happened there, which caused and triggered, and it has it, I guess a behavioral therapist or what have you, still working through this, but it has left an immense amount of PTSD. In the last 3 years, we've had some of the highest rates of suicide in leadership than a long time. And I mean, I promise you, every time I talk to a leader that sits in one of these types of positions, they're like, oh yeah, I just know someone last week, or I just knew someone last month or last year that didn't make it, because it wasn't because of COVID, it was because they didn't handle the situations of living anymore substantially well. So I'm hoping that I am greater. When we create this network of these individuals, somebody will feel safe enough to make a phone call and say, hey, I'm not doing well. What do you do in this kind of situation? Because now you're around like-minded individuals that may deal with similar stressors. So the beauty behind greater is coming to relax, rejuvenate, have an adventure of a lifetime, because they're zip lining, ATV riding, golf playing, spa. I mean, engagements, mind, spiritual, and mental wellness and health wellness. So I'm excited.
Oh, I love it. So what we're going to do, everyone, is we're going to put a link to this retreat and the ability to get a hold of Telena. So when you want to find out about that and find out about the next upcoming event and retreat that you could get there, it really sounds like it'd be very valuable to the right kinds of people. So we ask everybody on our podcast, and you mentioned a minute ago, when we learn lessons of life, we have a responsibility to pass those on. So I want you to answer the following question. You're going to have the opportunity to travel back in time and talk to your 18-year-old self. Now, I know only that's like 2 or 3 years ago, but we'll just pretend that it's a long time ago.
I love you.
So you're going to go back and talk to your 18-year-old self. And you only have just a really short time frame. What are a couple of things, bullet points that you'd tell your 18-year-old self? You need to do this. Now, going back to your 18-year-old self and saying, buy all the Apple stock you can, it doesn't count, right? It's more global things. What would you say to that person right now?
If I can go back and talk to my 18-year-old self, the first thing I was going to say is, no matter what comes your way, you will make it through, right? And then I would say, have faith, right? Even when you cannot see what is coming, stay strong in faith. That would be the number one thing that I would tell myself. And then to have fun life is not all about school. It is not all about work, because I've been working very hard since I was 14 years old when I told my mother to take me down. This is back when they would take you can get a permit. So I'm not 18, but when you can go get a permit and you can actually start working, I would tell myself to really stop and really breathe and take in the moments and experience each moment along the way. Because, life is not just about work. It's not just about accomplishments. It really is made to be lived. And I would say live a little bit more.
Great. Okay, now last question I have for you for this our episode today is, where are you going to be, or what's the next, where are you going to be in 5 years, or what's the next mountain you're going to climb? And the reason I'm asking you this, Telena, is I would like for you to put it out to the universe. This is what I want. I mean, we've had people on the podcast say, I want to make a movie of my script, right? And I said, okay, great. When that movie comes out and it premieres, I want to be at the premiere, and I want you to come back on my podcast and tell the world that you accomplished it. What would be something that you'd put out to the universe saying, this is what I want to accomplish in 5 years, or whatever that mountain time frame may be. Maybe it's 2 years, and then give you an open invitation to come back and celebrate with us on the podcast your accomplishment.
So, secret, no longer secret anymore. I have a film production studios that is being developed right now. So in 5 years from now, I would like to see it standing strong, making, films, movies, and TV broadcasts, or what have you. I think that is somewhere that I'm being led to spiritually, mentally, and physically. So that is a realm. I've lived in that territory, so we didn't get to talk about that today. So I've always had my corporate side, which is, business and everything, but I've always had a creative side. And I'm being called more so than not to actually really push that, which will cross over into the business acumen as well, with podcasts and broadcasts and things like that as well. So I'm excited about that. It has already been, set in the segue, but the building of it out, I think in 5 years from now, we should be able to see a building standing and things running and working at that point. So that's what I'm putting out to the universe. And then I think also there's just one other thing. I think, for me is a sound mind and successful mindset for not only me, but the lives that I touch. I would like to see a volume of lives change by me touching them in the most positive way.
Put a number on it. You say volume, put a number on it.
If I had it my way, and I was able to do it in the next 5 years, I would touch at least 10 million lives and have them change.
Okay, love it.
Way or another. And it doesn't mean physically touch. It's just meaning having some type of impact on at least 10 million engagements of some sort, so that, there's a positive change. And last year I was on the stage for 28,000. So
oh well, that's and let's say they're married and have 2 children, so you've affected 100,000 right there.
Exactly.
Right. And they have a couple of friends, and that's not unrealistic. And I think maybe even a little bit on the short side, for the fact that in 5 years easily, your film, you could help produce a film that could easily get that number. So that's awesome. So when I'm not sure what the end point would be there, but you have an invitation to come back and celebrate on our podcast to tell us, how that's gone. Would love to have you coming back. We really appreciate you being here today. I know Scott wasn't able to participate as much today. However, we'll sign off here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I think, well, he's still recording. It'll cut off. He got called off on something. He texted me, Dad, I've got a crisis going. So
no worries.
It's a business.
Well, Jason, it was, no, you're good.
It was good. It was a good podcast. It really was. Telena, you're doing some great things, and I wish the best for you. How can I assist you in your desire to touch 10 million lives?
Well, Jason, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind me asking. Please don't take it the wrong way, but do you believe anything spiritually at all?
Absolutely.
What is your spiritual system set up?
What do you mean?
Are you Christian? Are you Buddhist? Are you Muslim?
I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
So you're Christian. Okay, good. So what you don't know is my film production company is a Christian film production company.
Why didn't we talk about this?
So, because I didn't know what you.
No, that would have been great. Keep going. Tell me more.
So it's called New Genotype Production Studios. And so one of the reasons why I'm moving back to Georgia is because they have such great tax credits. But I'm a mom, right? And so when I turn on my TV, and I have a huge film production background. I went to school, I have a degree in film, and I have a degree in communications. I have multiple degrees, and I didn't mention what they were. But I have had a film production company since 2005, and I want the studios is what I'm going after now. And so I was praying. The Holy Spirit put on me, and I had to follow this up. I have a prophet that came. She's like, "Why are you not doing anything with videos? God is saying that you're supposed to be doing videos." I said, "There's no way in the world you would have known that, right?" And I had been having conversations back and forth with God. I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to do with this, right?" And I know what I wanted to do. So one of the things that I'm doing, Jason, is I am Hollywooding the Bible, and I know that sounds bad, but don't take that the wrong way. So
that's good.
I'm
Telling the way
tired of
it is
seeing
and being uplifting. There's so many stories. There's so much stuff out there that's
so
positive that we need to
oh my
put out,
God.
right? We don't need to go to the movie theater and be inundated with crap all the time.
With crap. Thank you, Jason.
Right?
Oh my God.
If we just put it out there, say, I mean, the
amount of stuff that is coming
Unbroken.
at us on a regular basis is,
yeah.
I turn on Netflix and I promise you, I have more satanic things coming across my screen than not. And I just like, look, I know that there's going to be opposition with good versus evil. But I promise you right now, there is more evil being seen and shown than there is good. I don't know. And so I'm like, look, can I create some balance? I mean, I don't have to take it over God. I'm not trying to be a God and I'm not trying to be an idol. But look, can we put something out to counteract this behavior? Give my children a choice. So if they want to watch a sitcom, does it always have to be about sex, drugs, and alcohol? Do I, I mean, like, right. I mean, they're Christian families. We got drama. Let's not get it wrong. Christians, we got our drama. But I would like to be able to show how we center our drama. How do we center ourselves? We are true, real life people. So I would like to read for the film portion. And this is, I want to do, I know you know who Steven Spielberg is, or, Marvel, Avatar, whatever. I want to take that level to the Bible, real time. I don't really want, I give homage to all the people that have done films or what have you, but I really want to make a center, look at my film and say, that's going to be dope. I want to see it. I don't care about all the rest of that jazz that's happening there. I don't care that it's a Christian base, whatever. I want to go because did you see how that looked? Like, I want it to look like Jurassic Park coming up here. So if that's the case, then my goal and what I've been set aside to, God has set me aside to, is to capture. Remember I said you 10 million? So I was talking about that, but I didn't say what I was talking about. But to capture the viewership of at least 10 million people over a 5-year period, for me, I think that's, and it may be more than that, but giving an opportunity for a Disney alternative. And I know, I used to love Disney back in the day, but it's gone real interesting. It just gotten real interesting. I watched a film, and my daughter's like, I don't want to watch this. And no pun intended to people that are different and are living different lifestyles. It's been set up that since the beginning of time. But I don't think that we need to have it digested in every single thing that we do and push down our children's throat on a regular basis. It's like, give them a chance to be a child, for God's goodness sake. So I think there's this
even give us in the proportion that it's actually in society, right? The proportion that alternative lifestyles and things, I don't believe is anywhere reflected in what we see on television and the movies, right? In all of my contact, it's just like, maybe there's 1-2%. Well, the 98%,
you gave a big percentage there because it's not even that.
Well, okay, but if the vast majority are so silent and we're not voting, I think it's getting there's a little bit of waking up, saying,
there's a lot that's happening.
I'm not going to go there. People, I don't drink beer, but just like, what happens to what's happening.
I got you. I know what we're talking about. I already know. I'm already there with you. You didn't even got to mention the brand name. I got you. I understand it.
Right. It's just like crazy. There needs to be people producing good content. There's some stuff here in Utah that's happening. Some film. There's a lot of film in Utah that's happening. The Chosen is being.
Remember,
filmed.
I told you that I used to come to the Sundance Film Festival. When we first talked, I was like, because I was in Utah. I was like, oh my God, I used to go to Utah. What have you? And that's because of Sundance Film Festival that I was dropping nuggets when we were talking, but I didn't go into full fledged with you. And so you asked me, and I want to make sure I honor your time and mine as well. You asked me, how can you help? For me, a fellow Christian, anybody that knows that people that can help push this mission ahead is extremely important to me, because I'm doing this for all Christ followers. I don't care what denomination you're in or what have you. Now, if you get offended that I'm a brown woman sitting over here doing something positive and God's like, well, then that's your business, right? But for me, I look at all God's people. I'm loving on Jason. I'm loving on Scott. I'm loving on everybody that's saying, hey, listen, I want something different. Well, then let's do something different.
Okay, so I do have someone. I want you to go to YouTube and look up Absolute Motivation. It's a guy that I'm starting to partner with. We're developing a YouTube channel of our own. In fact, I'm flying to Atlanta on Friday. There's a summit in Chattanooga at a mega church in Chattanooga. I'm speaking at that church on Saturday morning.
Okay.
It's about financial stuff. That's where my realm, right? However, I look at some of the stuff that he's putting out, Absolute Motivation. There's a whole series of people. One of the guys, though, one of the main guys there, we're sort of starting anew, if you will, and he might be someone that we could introduce you to that might be helpful with your mission of what you're doing, because he's got some good.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's some good followers, right? I mean, he put it out on his Instagram saying, look, I went to this conference, a really good financial education conference. I want to bring it to mainstream America. He'd come out to San Diego to it. He says, and he said, the first pastor that responds, I'll come to your place first and I won't charge you anything.
So what I'm looking for
in Chattanooga, right?
That's amazing. And thank you. And I would love that. What I'm looking for is I need support. You know what I mean? We're talking about support. So we talk about weak spots. This one area, because it's a controversial topic in the world, unfortunately, as it always has been, right? But I think that now, you see this film right here? This is just some generic quality of things that we do, right? And so we do clean work. It's not like I'm not doing, but I really want to challenge the Disney. I want to challenge the Netflix, and I want to challenge that. And when I say challenge, not so much as directly to them, but I want to be able to offer visual content that's just appealing, but from a different perspective, that's not diluted within Satanism, if that makes any sense. And so I think there needs to be a balance, and I want to go wild and spectacular. Like if you've seen the movie Avatar, it's really fantasy oriented. Imagine that for the Garden of Eden. Could you imagine something like that happening, and then seeing like these really cool, like angelic celestial beings that are just like suits up? We have not had this. And I'm telling it from a different perspective, but it says it right in the biblical context. Now it's time for it to come to life. So I want to take that Bible and I want to make it come to life into a real world perspective that people can relate to, that people want to fantasize and be a part of. And like, oh my God, like they are all on the bandwagon of being a Star Wars fans and all that, whatever. And they're coming out there with the Chewbacca outfits or what have you. I want them to come out there with all the rest of these same ideals. And it can be done because people are hungry for it. They're tired. They're tired of it. So that's where I'm at. And that's how.
All right. Well, I'll keep that in mind. Hopefully we'll put out, maybe we need to even come back and do another podcast with you and talk all about this.
I would love to. And
say, this is my dream. I want to do the studio and I want to put out good content. I don't want any, I want content for the vast majority of America, not for a select few, and have everybody else partake of things that they don't necessarily want to partake of. And you can talk about how, your challenges and what's happening and struggles, and even put it out the end of the universe. I need help with this. I need directors, I need writers, I need donations. I need, I might be.
Do you know how many souls, Jason, can be saved this way?
Absolutely. You have the ability
my God.
to preach the gospel without them, just by simply talking about it, you're doing good. So
yeah. So, well, thank
All right,
you
let's
for
keep it in
your
mind.
enthusiasm for
Thanks for
my
the-
ideas.
Okay. Now 10 million is too small. We need to be bigger than that with this
Well, maybe,
project.
you know, whatever God said, I mean, you know, because we as men, right? We said what we think. God always has something completely different than what we can even imagine, right? And so,
True.
I'm so excited, and I appreciate your just understanding of where I am coming from in that realm. And I would love to come back, and thank you for having me now today. I appreciate you.
Okay, so would you please email me a headshot? So I can use that as like the icon on Spotify so they can see your picture and stuff. And
Of
then I
course.
will, if Scott was on, he could tell us. We're late July, early August before this will come out on our production schedule. So just so you know, we'll send you an email and you can start promoting it to your people and put it out there and get some listenership to build our podcast as well. So that'd be great.
Okay, perfect. Will do.
Okay, talk to you later. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.